Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici. Welcome, my friends. My name is Vincenzo, and welcome to my channel. And that channel is Fountain Pen Therapy. It's therapy for all of us, folks. It's now the autumn months. It's cool here in Montreal. My golf game is essentially over, or my golf season essentially over for this country in any event. But I'm looking forward to going to Portugal in December, play some golf with my son who now lives in Portugal. So we've got a hiatus of about a month. We're going to enjoy our pens. We're going to do some videos. We're going to do some reviews. I've got lots of stuff coming in, folks. You know, as they say, I think I have to pace myself and not give it all away. Otherwise, you know, I will have nothing to show you in the weeks that are coming. But there's stuff in the pipeline. The stuff I received, it's all over my desk here. So we're going to do, you know, we're going to do the wise thing. We're going to just give you therapy just a little bit at a time. Exciting show for you. Got lots of stuff. I got some new paper. I've got some inks to propose. It was Pelikan Hub last week. I assisted my first Pelikan Hub, so I want to report to you on that. And I've got a pen haul and some new stuff in the market. You know, could be better, but there is some stuff that I can speak to you about. So without any, I've got an interesting pen revisited and currently inked segments, so stay tuned for those. So without any further ado, Fountain Pen Therapy presents the weekly recap for November the 2nd, 2025. Okay, so we're back with the first segment, which is what's new in the market. Not too, you know, there's some stuff, but I don't know. I was just expecting a little more poof from the market, but it's slower than I thought. But there's some interesting stuff that I want to show you nonetheless. You know me, I'll find something. Let's go to my computer. Okay, first thing, Chinese market. Well, okay. I mean, it showed up here. I might as well show it here. Otherwise, I'm kind of spoiling it. As I would expect from Gravitas, they've come out with new Gravitas monsters. There's this titanium blue finish kind of here. But this Ultim finish there, which I frankly would have preferred over just the clear. But I'm still looking for them to produce a monster with complete Ultim all around, or at least an Ultim section. But there you have it. Gravitas is come up with 3 more models. Now, this one is on the Stile site, but you can see them there. The same thing is being offered on their Gravitas site, as you can see. These are the 3 original models, and these are the brand new models they've just come up with. It's a little bit cheaper on this site than the Stile, but just because of the Ultim, the price is 390 euros as opposed to 285 euros. What else do I have? If we go back to Stile, I also noticed Kaweco has come up with this titanium. I believe this is new. I never knew about this titanium sport. I mention it. If it's existed before, I apologize. I just never knew it existed, but there you have it. So that's what's new on the steel and steely side. I believe they also are offering, this one here, which is a blue Kaweco piston filler. I think this navy gold is a new color, but I could be wrong. The price is excellent, 122 euros, which is roughly 135 US. I need to get this Kaweco piston. I don't have one, so I may very well order this blue one. So that's in terms of, what else do I have? Oh yeah, non-Chinese. I went to visit, this is Fountain Pen Nibs. This is FP Nibs, which is one of my favorite sites for purchasing nibs and nib units and all the rest of it. And I noticed they have some new can-write pens that they're selling. In particular, this Heritage Ebony Kingfisher. This pen was not easy to find. I have one like this, and everybody's telling me, where'd you get it? Where'd you get it? I happened to find it on eBay and ordered it, but it's not something readily available unless it's come out recently on the CanWrite site. But anybody who's interested, you can see my review. It's a nice color. It is I got to tell you, it's a Heritage and it's CanWrite, so you have to live with its shortcomings as a pen in terms of just the quality, but the nibs are fantastic. So there's that one, and there's also this model which they call the Legacy Amber. I might actually order this one. And the nibs, I probably get they have all kinds of nibs here that you can add and have done. So I'm going to look into this. I might go for this CanWrite Legacy model. Now, we work backwards. Let's go back to AliExpress. What have we got there? Just to remind you that the Wingsung 630 number 8 nibs are now being offered in extra fine, fine, medium, and broad. So anybody who's wondering, well, you can get your broad nib now in a number 8 size nib. I've ordered medium and broad because all I have is fine. And as soon as I get them, I'll let you know. So that's just a reminder. The Mahjong P141 titanium has come out. I've ordered that as well. Right now, all I see is with an F nib, with a fine nib, and it looks like it's the nib is the Moonman standard nib. It's not the Sun nib, but I will not be surprised if eventually you'll have a twist to that. You can probably get it with the Sun nib, and we'll revisit whether or not I can actually, change nibs, replace the nib on this one with the Sun nib once I get the pen. I did order it in this hammered finish because I don't have the 136 at the hammered finish. It is $200, or roughly. Some people are selling it at $199, but approximately the same price. And it doesn't have the hammered finish does not have an ink window. The smooth finish does have an ink window. And it's a lot less expensive. But given that I already have the 136 in that finish, I wanted to see what that hammered finish looked like. So when I get that, you folks will be the first to know. I noticed that on AliExpress, the Unikuro Toga Dive, which is a very rare pencil, it's kind of one of the most popular mechanical pencils out there, especially in Japan. It's selling at $111 Canadian, which is a good price because they're not readily available, and usually they sell for a lot more than that. What else have I got? Oh, I noticed that Admoc has come out with the 766 model, which is it's a vacuum filler. I've ordered it. I'm not sure if I've ordered it. I think I've ordered it in this. No, where is it? It's in the, I've ordered it in this black amber. And I ordered it not with the Bach nib nor with the Schmidt because the price differential is almost $20. I've ordered it with an ADMOC 7 medium nib. I want to see what it's all about. And then I can always swap nibs. Frankly, I can put in some Asvine nibs. I can put in Yowo, Bach, Schmidt. I've got plenty in my, in my spare parts department, as they say. So why spend $20? I want to test that ordinary standard ADMOC nib, see what it's all about. So there you have it. That's in terms of what else have I got for you? That's it. No, that's it. If I got something else, we've dealt with that one. Yeah, that's it. So that's it in terms of what's new in the market. Stay tuned for my next segment. Okay, so for the next segment, which is what's new in my fountain pen therapy studios. Well, first of all, I just want to report to you on the PELIKAN Hub that I assisted last Friday here in Montreal. It was my first. In fact, I've never been at a fountain pen show, and this was my first PELIKAN Hub. Very pleasant. I'm not going to mention names because I'm not sure, what the protocol is there, but I can tell you that the woman who organized it did a fantastic job. Thank you very much to her. It was well assisted, I would say to you. Lots of folks, different interests I found. Some people were interested more in paper, swatching, inks, journaling. Others were more interested in pens. The mistake I made was that I brought with me about 100 pens. Some interesting Chinese pens, my Grail pens. And so I sat at a table and I started opening my pens and my pen cases. I got a flock of people coming, and I ended up staying at that desk because I couldn't just pack up all these pens, put them in my bag and start walking around and go back and forth. So I didn't have a chance to visit as much as I would have wanted to visit the other tables and the other people and but the small circle that I enjoyed the evening with was very, very interesting. First of all, I got to know a little bit about 2 or 3 viewers of mine were there. And so they were fully in tune with, my recaps and my reviews and what I've done recently, etc. Lots of questions. They tried all my pens, or a lot of my pens that they were interested in trying. And I did some trying of theirs and learned a couple of things, and we'll show you that in the upcoming segments. And you know what? It was a good time. I didn't even have a chance to eat. I got to tell you, I paid for my meal, and I think I had just a little bite here and there. But I had a nice beer. I can tell you, it was nice and cold. But after that, I was so busy and so passionate about sharing my thoughts and my pens that I didn't even have a chance to eat. But having said all of that, we had a great time. I think I will be there next year as well. They did give gifts, the Pelikan. It was Pelikan sponsor. Let me just go to the overhead camera and show you. This is the gift they gave everybody who registered. Now, I had not registered previously. One of my viewers invited me to go, and the person in charge said, look, Vincent, if I have any left over at the end of the evening, I'll give you one. Otherwise, given that you didn't pre-register, I'm afraid I won't be able to give you. And I said, that's fine. It was a last minute thing for me. So, but there was one left over, and here it is. This is what they give you. PELIKAN Hub, October 24th. There's a little notebook that we could use, Pelikan, and of course it features their ink of the year, the apricot, and we'll be taking a look at that ink shortly in the ink swatching therapy segment. We're going to take a look at that one. I have last year's ink of the year as well, and 4 other inks, so we'll take a look at Pelikan inks this week, given that it was PELIKAN Hub. So there you have it. So, great time. By the way, during that PELIKAN Hub, that circle that was at my table, I met an individual. It was the mother of a of one of my viewers, and she didn't bring her collection, but she showed me her collection on the phone. And let me tell you, I was salivating. This woman, and, we're not going to mention names, but she had almost every conceivable Mont Blanc. She's been collecting for decades. All these beautiful, beautiful pens, I've got to tell you. And she had, this Jane Austen Mont Blanc set, the fountain pen. I guess it's ballpoint I guess it's ballpoint, and the pencil. My God, that to me is one of my grail pens. I've got the fake, of course, that I bought on AliExpress. But she took a look at the fake and compared it to her original, and she said, look, they're just as heavy. So I thought I just had a big clunker, but no, it's a heavy pen, the real one. She was a little bit surprised and amazed at how good that imitation was. But having said that, wow! I told her next year you should show up, but bring some of your pens so you can share them with us. But anyway, that was fascinating. In any event, that's the Pelikan Hub. So what else is new in the Fountain Pen Studios? Well, as usual, let's take a look at some paper, my pen all, and the inks. We'll start with the paper. We'll be right back. So, my paper haul for this week. Well, mentioning the Pelikan Hub. At the Pelikan Hub, one of my viewers, and again, I feel uncomfortable mentioning names, but the individual will know who he is. He was trying some of my pens, and I saw him take out this notebook, and he was writing on it. To me, it just looked like another notebook. There are so many, as you know. And then it just happened that he mentioned to me, oh, this notebook. We talked about notebooks and, the difference between a Tomo River paper. And he showed me his notebook. And this is the notebook he showed me. Let me show you. Go to my overhead camera. And that's what I'm going to feature this week. This was the notebook he showed me. It's a spiral, quite a few pages. It's not an A5 size. I guess it's a little bit larger. Is it B7? I forget now what size this would be. But when I compare it to an A5 size, just to give you an indication, you can see it's a little bit bigger. Okay, and he said I bought this at Dollarama. Now we have Dollarama stores, which are these discount dollar stores, if you will, here in Montreal, and I think they're all over Canada. Now, do they have Dollarama stores in the US and elsewhere in the world? I'm not sure, so this may be of limited interest. But he showed me this studio, and I will try to see whether or not it's made in China, whether or not there are available on the internet. It cost me $2.75 Canadian, so that's not even $2 US, okay? And it says Dollarama, made in China, 70 sheets, multiplied by 2, that's 140. The paper, it's spiral, so it's a nice thin spiral made out of plastic. The paper feels really, really smooth, very similar to, I would say to you, Namsine. Or even, it's got kind of that coating that you find on Clairefontaine or even Rhodia. I'm not suggesting it's the same quality, but nonetheless. And I did some writing on this already, and I was really, really impressed. So, for example, just to give you a glimpse, here. I took my Leonardo La Fenice nib, 18 karat. Take a look at that. My Navlar Eclipse, the Gravitas, which is a big, juicy, broad. My Leonardo number 8 Steel Fine, my Waterman Karen, my Twisby, my Peniter Quill, my Omas Schaefer Legacy, my Waterman Edson, my Leonardo 14K. So, I mean, really performed really nicely, I got to tell you. And if we take a look at the other side, let me just... Hands are very nice. I mean, hardly, very little penetration, if you will. There's a little bit of see-through on some of the thicker lines, but otherwise probably better than Tomoe River, I would say to you, in terms of, ghosting. Very little feathering, just slight, just on my TWSBI mini aluminum pen, and I forget what ink I add in there. There is just a tiny little bit of feathering, but otherwise I can tell you, folks, so we're going to do some writing with this paper this week, just to give you a further indication. We'll do some swatching. We'll compare it to Tomoe River, which is always my baseline, if you will. So again, if you can get your hands on this, $2.75. Thank you for that to that viewer who's present at the Pelikan Hub. So from now on, this is going to be kind of my go-to cheap paper. Dollarama store, $2.75. You can't go wrong. So let me go to the next segment, which is the ink swatching. We'll do some ink swatching with this paper in Tomoe River. I'm going to set up and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back for the ink swatching therapy, as they say. Here are my 6 inks for today. These are all the Pelikan Edelstein inks that I have in my collection. I stopped buying them because I found them to be a little dry. But you know what? I figured I would revisit, given that I just acquired or was gifted this one this is the new Apricot Achat. This is the new ink of the year, if you will. I have the lapis blue, the golden lapis, which I have mixed feelings about, and we'll get to that in a second. That was last year's ink of the year. I have mandarin. I have, this is onyx. This one is smoky quartz. And this one is sapphire blue. So those are the 6 inks that we'll take a look at this week, okay? And we'll see how they perform on paper, at least in the swatching, and we'll take it from there. I'm anxious to see the difference between the apricot and the mandarin and see how they perform. And I have got some words about this golden lapis as well. So there you have it. So those are the inks. Let's put those aside. We'll take out the paper. Got my swatching tools ready. The paper, here it is. First of all, it's going to be this studio cheap Dollarama notebook. I've got my ink journal. This is from Good Impressions. It's one of my ink journals. And given that there's 5 on each page, you can only use one because it kind of goes right through. But I do have a 6th one here, so we'll do 5 here and 6 here, and we'll put 6 down this notebook. So there you have it, okay? Let me start with, this is sapphire, yeah, sapphire blue. So beautiful sapphire, got to tell you. And, that's been my experience, unfortunately, that they are kind of a dry ink. But I figured I'd give them another shot. I'll take out my Sailor Coro. So this is the Pelikan now I can never spell it right. Edelstein, okay. And this is sapphire. So Pelikan Edelstein, sapphire. Okay. So that's the sapphire. Put that aside. Wash that out. Next one on the list is this smoky quartz. Nice brown. You can see the bottles are full because I have not been drawn to these inks. Okay, let me just move that so you could see it better. Here we go. Okay. I'm going to have to maneuver a little bit around that. Okay, so whoop, too much ink. So Pelikan, and you can see how dry it is. It's so dry. And this is smoky quartz. But you know, dry inks can be of, some people could actually prefer them just because they're not messy, you know. And with the right pen, smoky quartz. And sometimes, you know, you get just this false impression or first impressions, and you stick to them. You don't give pens or paper or, you know, in this case, inks a chance, and you kind of put them away. And then you revisit them, and your point of view quickly changes, and you realize that maybe you were unfair, or maybe you jumped to the wrong conclusions. So it's always nice to take, you know, at least, you know, whatever product it is that you haven't used in a while, and just kind of bring it back to the table, so to speak. This is onyx. And to kind of revisit the product, and sometimes we're pleasantly surprised. You know, my biggest revisit, I would tell you, in terms of my collection, has been how I discovered the fine nib. Early on, as I think I've mentioned several times, let me just write this because it's difficult to write and speak at the same time. Yeah, my fine nib revisit or discovery, in fact, because I would every pen I would order, I would make sure that it had either a broad or a broad nib or a stub, and I have very little patience for finer nibs. Even the medium was ignored by me. And then, you know what? I believe I may have rediscovered the fine when I bought my Homo sapiens, my Visconti Homo sapiens. And that's when I realized, whoa, I think I'm missing something. Okay, this is Mandarin. Okay, let me just ink my nib. There is definitely more texture on this Studio Dollarama paper. Just, okay, here, where are we? So this is the Pelikan. Okay, I know it's outside of view, but that's okay. I'll show that to you in just a second. Notice I just dropped some ink here. Let me just clean that out right away before it causes a bigger mess. Okay, so those are kind of the regular inks, regular inks that you can find. They are readily found. Now we're going to deal with the two year ink of the years. This is the Golden Lapis, which is a shimmering ink. I found that this ink is a gorgeous ink, as you shall see in a second. Let me just open that up. Look at that blue. I mean, it's just really, really nice when you swatch it. Look at that. Just outstanding color. And you'll see the shimmer do its magic as it dries. But unfortunately, my experience has been, and I'm going to test it again. As I mentioned, I want to give it a shot, that it clogs my pens. So this is the Pelikan Ink of the Year. And I guess it was 2024. Hope I'm not missing. If that's wrong, I'll put it up on the screen. And it's a Golden Lapis. Or is it lapis blue? I forget now. No, Golden Lapis. So, Pelikan Ink of Year 2024 Golden Lapis. So that's last year's yearly ink, or ink of the year. Now we'll try this. This is a standard ink. It's got to be light. I mean, just by looking at the bottle, apricot achat. So we will just, okay. So I'm anxious to see how different it is from Mandarin. I mean, these are always, these types of colors, not obvious to see whether or not you can actually write with them. I know some people enjoy these lighter inks. I'm not a great fan, especially of the, what is it? I forget now what they're referred to, but I believe, no, what am I doing? Chromo shading, is that the expression for some of those lighter inks that give you lots of shading but very, very light? I've always found them very difficult to write with. So this is the Pelikan. Not bad, actually. $20.25, and it's apricot achat. Ink of Year 2025 apricot achat. So there we have it. I think we've kind of gone through all them all. We got a give them a chance to dry, and I've got a feeling that they will dry fairly quickly. I mean, on this paper, it's almost all dry already. On the Tomoe River, some of the inks are taking more time as expected, but we'll let all that dry up and we'll be right back and do some final assessments and conclusions. Be right back. Okay, so they're fairly dry now. Back, I really want to concentrate on this cheaper paper just to show you how it performs in terms of comparing the sapphire. I got to tell you, I see a little more shading on the Tomoe River, and the shimmer kind of comes out a little more. But as to the rest, you could see that the Pelikan apricot here has interesting shading, from light to darker, whereas on this cheaper paper, it kind of comes out a little bit flat. The mandarin's giving me a little bit of shading, but I find there's a lot more on the Tomoe River. The onyx, same thing. There's some shimmer on the Tomoe, what I don't see here. So I don't think that this is the type of paper that will accentuate the qualities of any inks. But on the other hand, in terms of performance, we can see a little, there is some, obviously some bleed through, and but much better than Tomoe River. And in terms of the writing itself, can hardly see it. There's really very little ghosting. So in terms of quality of the paper for everyday writing, if you're not interested in getting maximum performance and just journaling, drawing some notes, even students who want to use this notebook for school related or university related note taking, excellent in my view. For $2.75, I mean, it's an excellent deal. So there you have it. Those are the inks. I'm going to see whether or not I'm going to ink any pens. I may want to try that blue lapis again and give it a shot and see how it performs over time, and maybe we can revisit it. This apricot Asha, the new one, I'm sorry, I don't see myself using that ink, just as with mandarin, unless there's some special reason why I need to use orange ink. It's a fun ink to play with, but I'm not sure that I would put it in any of my pens, frankly, at least not for now. I may change my mind later, but not the way things stand right now. That blue sapphire is really tempting, however. So there you have it. Those are the inks for this week. Be right back with the next segment. Okay, so we're back with the pen haul. Here are the 3 writing instruments that I propose for you this week that I've received. This is an interesting mechanical pencil, and we'll get to it in a minute. These are 2 pens that I would say to you I've kind of part of my, what I would say, the forgotten ones. In other words, pens that have been out for some time, but which I never kind of decided to buy for all kinds of reasons, not a priority, and then found some deals out there and decided to take the jump, so to speak. The first one is this platinum pen, which is the Platinum Curidas. Oh, I'm sorry, that should go the other way. Here you have it. Found a deal on Amazon, bought it. We'll take a look at this pen and see. And actually, I'd like to compare it a little bit with my last week's acquisition, which was the Navlar Eclipse. And that Navlar Eclipse got me thinking that maybe I should do a kind of review of all my capless or vanishing point type pens. Notice there's a little defect with this one already, and I'll show that in a second. I may have to return it. But so that's the Curidas. Then I have a Diplomat pen, which is this one, the Viper. Again, out of recent interest for hooded nibs, got me thinking that maybe I should be adding this one to my collection. Everybody's kind of raving about it, and I never got around to ordering one. Figured I'd take the jump, and we'll take a look at how I feel about this pen. I may even actually do a review, maybe in the context of a comparison. I'm working on a hooded nib, inlaid nibs, inset nibs, sort of a collection video. I haven't quite decided yet, but that could be of interest. So we'll take a look at that, and we'll do some writing with both these pens. We'll probably include them in my currently inked section. And then I found this one. Now, this is a fascinating, as you know, I've been growing very fond of mechanical pencils. I'm educating myself as I go along with the help of my viewers, and with the help of a couple of Chinese or Korean websites, and my interest is piqued. And this is the Koyu Aim Vision, not cheap, because I had to buy it on eBay, but just a fascinating looking pencil, I gotta tell you. And I'm learning a little bit about all the different lead sizes and what it means. And I finally understood it with the help of some of my viewers and a little bit of research. And I got to tell you that I've ordered every nib that well, I shouldn't say every nib or lead. My understanding is that HB is in the middle. Then you can go to, you go, darker or lighter. And I think I've gone up and down by 4. So 2B, 3B, 4B, and the lighter ones 2H and 3H. I believe I've gone to H, 3H, 2H. I've ordered all these leads, and I can do a comparison, and I'm going to see what is best for me. I'm going to compare 0.5, 0.7, 0.9, but fascinating. Take a look at this, folks. It's just a beautiful writing instrument. If I could only get a fountain pen to look that way. I got to tell you, very, very nice. So that's my acquisition for this week. I'm looking forward to trying it out and using it. So that's the Koyu Aim Vision. Am I getting this right? No, it goes this way. Here we go. We'll put that back. Just some instructions that I've got to go through the whole gamut just to figure out how all this works and what the little, there's all kinds of things you can do and to what extent it's useful, etc. It's all part of education. So I guess now we're getting some mechanical pencil therapy as well. So there's my pen haul for this week. We'll be right back and for my next segment. Okay, so we're back for my next segment, which is Pens Revisited. I've got quite a few things to talk about, so without any further ado, first things first. I want to mention that I think I've been a little unfair with this 1086 Hero. One of the principal reasons for it is that I found that this mechanism, which is, this is the pen, by the way, for those who don't know, it was kind of using the same nib system as you'll find in the Pilot Justice. In other words, there is a layer there, as you can see, just a sheet that goes up and down and that controls the softness of the nib. When it's all the way up, the nib is more rigid. When it's all the way down, the nib is softer, and anything in between. And there's this little mechanism here that allows you to turn it up and down. Okay, that mechanism is difficult to operate on this 1086. Not impossible, but difficult. But and that's what kind of, incited me or to give some negative reviews to this pen. But I've been using it in my journals lately, and I got to tell you that in terms of the writing experience, this Hero 1086 is just really nice. In other words, The nib itself, I think, may be worth the price. It is just very smooth. It's very constant or consistent, and it's wet. So if you're into a thick, wet nib, this is really, really nice. So, sometimes this is why this revisited section exists now in my recap, because it allows me to come back and maybe either raise other issues, or after having tested the pen for a longer period of time, you may come out with a very different conclusion. And let me tell you, by the way, and it's also bouncy. So there you have it. So I thought I'd mention, that's my Hero 1086. It's quickly becoming an everyday pen for me. My Navler Eclipse. I didn't like that nib. It's a fine nib. I did tune it. And I want to spell Navler right. It's velour. Is that it? Yeah. This is the Eclipse. It's much better now. I kind of, just tuned it a little bit. It's a little wetter. It's still a very sticky writing experience. But it's very precise writer. So if you're looking for nice fine line, not messy at all, then this nib is okay. I understand it does exist in medium, and maybe that's the choice for me. So what I thought I'd do is, let's try to see if I could swap the nibs. So I'll remove the, and I have others. I have my Vanishing Point Pilot with a 14 karat stub, and let's see if I can put that in there. Oh, so far I'm not sure I'm getting anywhere. How do I put this back? Yeah, I'm not sure I'm getting anywhere here. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it will come out, which is too bad. But maybe the nibs can be swapped without the whole section. The section is pretty similar to us. I'm surprised why I can't shop. Let me just go off camera and do something and be right back. Okay, I'm back. What I did is I tried to swap, and it's a little dirty here because my fingers all over the nibs, but I tried to swap it with the Mahjong Moonman or the Jinao and the actual real thing, the Pilot. Try to see if I could swap the whole mechanism, and I can't. There is a difference in size. It just doesn't pop out. What I did realize, however, is that maybe the nib can be swapped, just the nib. So I'm going to have to try to play around with that, and I'll come back maybe next week in the Pens Revisited and let you know, because I would love nothing more than to perhaps buy this in medium. As I mentioned, I got this as a deal, very cheap. and it only came in fine, so I have to live with it. It's grown on me just because of the size. I love the size, and we'll see in a second how it compares to the Curidas and whether or not I can swap the Curidas nib. I've got a feeling no, but maybe I can. So we'll take a look at that in a few seconds. So there you have it. That's my Eclipse. Now, what else have I got for you? In terms of the pens that I used during the week, remember last week I had chosen my pocket pens as the currently inked for the ink. I relied on essentially two, which is this Gravitas pocket pen. I love the Ultim, and I also like the idea, Ultim, that it has a number 6 size nib. It's a broad, it's very juicy, and I re-inked this pen during the week because I found myself using it very, very often. So, like all Gravitas pens, very nice. And also this M2, which I think is a better pen than Kaweco. That's my opinion. Let me just see if it writes. It may not have any ink because I used it all week. But this is the Hongdian M2. Look how juicy that is. It's even got some spring. Very nice. I like the size. That's a medium nib? Yeah, it's a medium nib, and it's got that new number 5 nib. But man, is this pen, and it's so well balanced. Capped. Very nice. Nib and pen. 10 on 10, folks. So those were the two pens that I found myself using. Now, I did discover something. You remember this little guy, and this is the Opus 88 Mini, and I found this pen, it just writes so beautifully. Okay, so this is the Opus 88, and it's got Mini, and it's got a number 5 1.4 Yobo stub. And I was disappointed because I broke off, this portion of the pen broke off on me. And then one viewer suggested that I just use some super glue. And you know what? It's working. There you have it. I've managed to connect it. And the viewer said, you don't have to go up and down with this mechanism. All you need to do, given that this is kind of a Japanese style eyedropper, so you ink it from, you remove the section and you eyedropper it there. All you really need to do is twist it just a little bit to open up the valve so that the ink goes down. So right now I'm going to leave it the way it is because I don't want to, tax it too much. And so all of a sudden, the pen that I thought I had scrapped and that was no longer usable, it's gone back in my usable drawer, so to speak. And you know what? We'll use that little pen. It's just a beautiful pen, and I had probably one of my favorite because of that nib. So thank you to that viewer. It works so far. At least I can now use it. Next on my revisit. Now I mentioned that during my Pelikan Hub, one of my viewers, the same viewer who suggested to me this Dollarama notebook, was his favorite nibs were fine nibs, and in particular, he enjoyed very much hooded nibs. And he tried my Aurora 88P, found it very interesting. And so when I went back home, I said to myself, well, what kind of hooded nibs do I have? And maybe I should revisit. And I took out this one. This one is the is it the Wing Sung? I think it's the Wing Sung 601A with that. Now, it's not a hooded nib, but it's kind of this rounded version. And this pen writes, and it's got like a, look at the tipping. Huge. And I think this is specially made by Saint Pen PPS or Chinese Pen or Bobby Nibs, if you will. And take a look at this. Wow. I said to myself, why have I not been using this pen? So I took it out and I added it to my currently inked for last week and used it quite a bit. And this has led me to purchase a bunch of hooded nibs. And I'm thinking about doing a video on, this type of nib. And I forget all the names, but, kind of the weird looking nibs. The Waterman, the Legacy, the Targa, the Schaefers, the Wing Sungs, the Jinhaos of this world, the Parkers. And, I had to order a couple of pens before I could make a decent video to give some variety. So I figured I'd do that. I'm working on it. I'll let you know if and when it gets done and when I plan to publish it. Next thing, there is one viewer who absolutely loves this little Vazier Elf. And it's a pocket pen, and the viewer quickly reminded me that I should have mentioned this pen in my pocket pen collection, and I hadn't. It wasn't in my pocket pen drawer, it was in my Vazier drawer, and I omitted to mention it because it is a nice little pen. So this is the Vazier Elf. It has a number 5. Is it Schmidt? Yeah. Fine Schmidt nib. Fine or medium? Sorry. Medium. Not a fine. It's a medium. The ink in here is the Majon ink. And what I found that this Majon ink has a tendency to, you see some of the feathering? There's no feathering in the other inks. Well, there's a little bit on the Dieman, but there again, it's because the Dieman has a Majon ink. I got a feeling that Majon ink maybe feathers a little more than others. Something that I have to look into, but there is a little bit of feathering. But again, let's take a look at the notebook. Very nice performance, I got to tell you, almost perfect. So I'm very pleased with this notebook. So anyway, that's the Elf. Sorry, Vazier, I forgot about you. There you have it, another pocket pen worthy of mention. What else have I got for you on the revisited front? Oh. You remember that last week I did a video on number 8 steel nibs that I find are in vogue again. And here I've got a bunch of them. Well, I'll remove my OMAS for a second. And one of the number 8 nibs that I forgot to mention, simply because I don't have one, is the 44T pen. The big one, I'll put it up on the screen, and you can see that has a number 8 steel nib. It looks, strangely enough, it looks very similar to the number 8 steel that Gravitas uses. So stay tuned for that. Now, several viewers asked me whether or not in the number 8 sphere, you've got here the Majons, you've got the fake Montblanc, you've got the Gravitas, you've got the another Majon, you've got an Asvine, and I have a Bach nib in this huge Ranga, whether or not any of these nibs are swappable. Now you will see that there is one video that I would love to do now, and I think it's going to have to be a supplement, is how are all these nibs swappable? Now, there's no point in swapping, I think, my Majon nib, or maybe there is, or my Asvine nib into my Gravitas. But, Gravitas sells their nib section for $55, and it writes beautifully, and there's some question as to whether or not it's a Bach nib or their own spec'd nib. For $55, I may want to be tempted to take that nib in the Gravitas and put it into one of my Ranga number 8, or into one of my Asvines or Majons, or even you can get these Ranga pens, okay, with their number 8 setting or section. It's a Bach compatible section, and the pen will cost you it's not expensive. The question I had is whether or not I can take any of the Asvine nibs, the Majon nibs, and maybe even the Gravitas, and maybe even that Leonardo number 8 steel nib, and fit it into my Rangas. Because right now, the Ranga number 8 sized nib pens come with a Magna Carta, and there again with a Bach compatible section. In my particular pen, I chose a Bach titanium, but the Bach titanium pen nib costs you $150 Canadian. What if I order the pen with no nib, and I can get it for like $120 in beautiful ebonite from Ranga, and accommodate either an Asvine nib or a Majon nib, or even that Gravitas nib, or maybe even a Leonardo nib. In other words, I will get the beauty of those Chinese number 8 steel nibs in a Ranga pen, and not be obliged to pay extra for an ebonite. So I'm working on a video to compare all of that and to show you what's swappable and what's not. I believe there's one video out that tells us whether you can swap any of these. I think that, and I forget the name of the reviewer, but I remember seeing it. He swaps just the nibs. In other words, he pulls the nibs out of their feeds. I'm going to try to do something different. I want to see whether or not I could take the entire section and just screw it in and unscrew sections from one pen into another and see whether or not we could do it that way. That way I'm not, just friction pulling the nibs. I want to see whether or not all those, ultimately, the real question is whether or not all these number 8 steel nibs are in fact Bach nibs or Bach sections. Because if it's the case, and if it's not the case, I can buy the Ranga pen with no nibs and no section, go to a fountain nib factory, buy myself a nib section, buy myself a cheap Ranga pen, and insert in that nib section either a Majon number 8, an Asvine number 8, or even a Gravitas number 8. I can also, thinking about taking this fake Mont Blanc, whose nib is not bad, but it's not great, and see whether or not I can swap it with a Majon nib, or an Asvine nib, or even that Gravitas nib. So all of a sudden, I get a better nibbed pen. So all of that is in the works. So stay tuned for that. There may be a supplement to my number 8 steel nib video. We'll do a swapping video as well for your enjoyment. I've talked enough. I need some coffee. We're going to be right back with the next segment. We're back for my next segment, and which is the currently inked. So as you know, I try to get some inspiration on it with a theme to inspire me in terms of choices of pen for the following week. And I was inspired by 2 comments to my last week's recap. one of them was, do you have any Laban pens and what do you think about them? So I've kind of forgotten about Laban. I have 2 models, so I figured I'd throw that in this week. Another comment was, what about independent pen makers? You know, the small pen makers. You don't put any accent on them. What do you think, etc.? And yeah, I may not, but I have a few. And so those pens, I think I'm going to call them the forgotten ones, if you will. And I'll show you what I have, what I picked out for the currently inked, in addition to my newly acquired Diplomat Viper and the Platinum Curidas as well. So we'll add those in the mix as well. So that will form my currently inked for this week. So without any further ado, we'll go to my overhead camera and we'll do some writing. Here are the pens, first of all. Well, we have my Curidas, we have my Viper. We'll start here. This is one of the Mike Green pens that he sent me for review purposes. Very nice. No clip, but just beautiful, this dragon tail sort of a resin. Very nicely turned. We'll do some writing with that. Now, I've chosen 2 Colliers from Edison. Now, you can consider Edison as an independent pen maker. He's probably a little bit bigger than some others. And maybe some of you might say, no, he's not independent. He runs a full-scale operation. But, it's not Pilot. It's not Waterman. It's not some of the bigger ones. So I've included my two Edison Colliers to the mix. Then I have this pen, which is phosphor pens. Very gorgeous, kind of a Wrangell looking model. Okay, and I've got a 14 karat Yowo nib on this one. So that's phosphor. I then have 2, which one is it? I believe it's these 2. One second. Yeah, these 2 are from London Pen Company. This is the Christopher 13. It's the smaller size. And this is the Christopher 14. Very, very nice pens, by the way. Enjoy them both with kind of primary manipulation resins. This one is the Galen Leather Studio Agat Kakan pen as well. Again, with primary manipulation resin. I forget the number 1, 2, 3, 4. Then there's this one. I can't mention the name for now, but I got to tell you, I'm encouraging this independent pen maker, and hopefully we'll be able to actually review this pen. That particular pen maker sent me this pen to give my comments on it, and I provided him with some comments. It's a huge pen, and we'll take a look at how it writes. I think he's done a really, really good job. And you can get the resin maybe a little, there's some sparkles in there if you can, kind of give it a little more oomph. So that's another independent pen maker, and hopefully we've agreed to keep in touch. He's beginning, and I'd love to encourage him. So maybe I'll even get permission from him one day to actually mention, this pen and officially, and be able to also, draw your attention to his work. So those are the pens that I propose for my currently inked for next week. What we'll do is let me just set up and we will do some writing. Okay, so we're back. We're going to do some writing now with these pens. First of all, the 2 acquisitions. This, I think it's, Snap-on. This is first of all, I noticed very slippery. I'm not too happy about that. I have the same problem with their arrows, the other Diplomat. It takes a little bit getting used to. So this is the Diplomat Viper. It's what they call an FM nib. Find it a little sticky. I've used that expression. It just not smooth. It's not scratchy, but it's not smooth. It's sticky. It doesn't flow nicely. And it's rigid. Not a great writing experience, I can tell you. I'm not too happy about this one. Let's take a look at this is the Platinum Curidas. Yeah, I mean, just comparing these two, I can, this is it's a platinum, so I think they write much finer than normal, because this is a medium and it really writes like a fine, but it's very smooth. It's not sticky at all. It doesn't, even on this paper, and this paper is a little more friction to it, so I can understand it may not be as easy to write on as Tomoe River. Let me just take Tomoe River and just test my Diplomat. This is Tomoe River original. First of all, extremely slippery. I mean, on Tomoe River, it is a little smoother, I must say. But it's just so stiff. It's like I really feel that nib a bit too much, in my view. So it's not a great writing experience. I like the way the cap, the magnetic cap, I like its look. Don't like its section. It's very, very slippery. If I compared this platinum, on this paper, this just flows so nicely, even though it's a fine nib. Yeah, so anyway, so what I'm not happy about this is that I don't know if your pens do that. If your Curidas does this, it doesn't go in. It's stuck there. I don't know why. So I have to, and then it goes in. Is that the way it works? Or is it just mine is defective? I don't know if it's, you got to push it, and then to retract it, it doesn't go. I have to kind of, in order to retract, I have to, it doesn't retract. It's only, yeah, something's wrong with it. Or unless this is the way it's meant to work, or is there anything else I'm missing here? Am I, is there anything that I should be doing differently? Because look, it stays there, and then, so when I close, it doesn't go in automatically. I have to, then it snaps in. Something's wrong there. May have to return that. So anyway, so far, not great purchases for different reasons. Okay, let's look at my forgotten ones. First of all, this is my Mike Green and it's the what do they call this one? 1 second, let me just see. I think I wrote it down somewhere. He calls it the Magna or Magma Dragon. Very tuned, nicely tuned nib. And by the way, I hadn't written with this pen in a while. Just took it out of my drawer and it writes beautifully. So, very nice. Next, my Colliers. First of all, my orange swirl. So this is Edison. Whoop. I just inked it. There may be some older ink. I just inked it with that new Ink of the Year Pelikan, and it's already dry. So this is Pelikan Ink of the Year. But I can tell that there was another ink in there, so it's coming out a little bit darker, and maybe that explains it. It could be that there was some dry ink there to begin with. This is my Edison Collier 1.5 stub. Otherwise, really nice. Yeah, the color that's coming out, it has some brown in it, so I suspect there's still some of the old ink in there. I mentioned in my previous recaps, in that regard, I'm not very rigorous. I should clean out the pens before I re-ink them. But you know what? I don't have the time, and frankly, it's worked for me so far. This is the other Edison Collier. Again, with a 1.5 stub. I think they call this candy or something like that. Fountain, I can't speak at the same time. Nice line variation, you know, on this stub. Really nice, smooth. I forget the ink. It's been inked for a while. This is the Galen Studio Agacan with primary manipulation. I forget the number. It's got a 1.1 stub. 1.1 stub. Again, this paper is doing really well, I got to tell you. No complaints so far. Maybe not as smooth as Tomo River. It's got some friction, but it's okay. Next, this is my London Pen Company. So let me just... And this is my Christopher 13. So it's the smaller one of the two. It's got a Yowo. Is it 1.1 or 1.5? It's a 1.1 stub. And I filled it with Pelikan Golden Lapis, which was the 2024 Ink of the Year. Very nice. I don't know if you can tell. There's that shimmer, maybe against the light there. Yeah, there it is. So I'm going to test this ink, give it another go. I know some of you were pleased with the fact that I'm playing around again with shimmering inks. Put that aside and maybe we'll revisit it at the end of the week. And next week, I'll let you know how it works out. This is another London pen company. And this is a Christopher 14. Really nice pen. One of my favorite stub nib pens. Now, in all fairness, the stub that's in there is a Stipula 0.9 stub. Some of the best stub nibs Stipula makes. I've put in here Pelikan Sapphire. But again, given that there used to be purple ink in there before, the Sapphire is really a little more purpley. So you'll forgive me for that. Again, if I wanted to be a little more scientific, I would have washed that out. But you know what? It's just going to be a pen that I'm going to use during the week. So eventually the blue will become predominant. Next, this is Phosphor with that 14 karat gold nib. So Phosphor pens. One of my first fountain pens, I would say to you, when I started collecting. It's got a Yowo 14 karat stub nib. Nice and smooth. Again, it's a pen I haven't written with and wet and really thick. I haven't written with this pen in ages, and no real hard start. It started right away. Forget the ink that's in there. Looks like a black ink of some sort, but I'm not sure what ink is in there right now. Next, my Laban. This is the Laban. Ooh, forget the name. Let me just check that for you. Looking at my list here, it's a Laban Tarocco. So, Laban Tarocco. But the nib is a Yowo broad nib. I purchased at Goulet Pens. So here it is. Very nice, actually. Does have problems with dry nib after a while, but like I said, it's resurrected. I'm going to try it out the week and see what happens. Sometimes they'll surprise me. This is the Laban Mento, I think they call it. 1 second. Yeah, Mento. I hope I'm not mixing up. No, this is the Mento. So this is the Laban Mento. And this one does have a nib that's broad, and it has Laban branding on it. I'm not sure if it's a Yowo or a Bach. It looks like a Bach from the feed. So Laban Mento, broad. And by the way, the ink in this one is the Pelikan what do they call it? Smoky. 1 second. Where is it? Not onyx. Can't find it now. Smoky quartz. just occurred to me whether or not I got that right in my description of the inks that I inked. Yes, I did. Okay. Yeah, Pelikan Smoky Quartz. Writes really nicely. Very nice. Thick, broad nib. The ink is nice as well. So we'll see. We'll see how it all fits in. The next pen, this one just writes beautifully. It's a huge pen, as you can see. Kind of Ranga style shape, you know, nothing fancy, no clip, but it does have this kind of snake to kind of a roller stop. It appears to have a springy Bach nib of some sort, identified as medium. So this is I don't know how, I can't, unidentified. Resin pen for the time being until the maker gives me permission. Because he's working on his, so this is kind of like a prototype, and I don't want to, you know, without his permission, I don't want to mention who it is until that prototype has been fully completed, if you will. But I can tell you, this nib is just perfectly tuned. And if it's a Bach, wonder why it has that spring. These Bach nibs sometimes are so stiff, and others, what I notice is when they come without any branding like that, they're much bouncier than when they come with all the frills, with the Bach branding on it, etc. And then all of a sudden you get a really stiff nib. But if this is Bach, I can't see it being anything else. The feed is, that's weird. The feed doesn't look like a typical Bach feed, but I may be wrong. Very nice. So we're going to enjoy writing with that. Now, what else have I got here? Oh, I just wanted to, maybe we'll put it here, my pencil. Where is it? Here it is. Let's just write with that pencil. Just a beautiful writing instrument, let me tell you. Now, how does this work? Okay, here we go. So this is the Caillou Omnivision or Aim Vision. Let me just look, Aim Vision. I think this is a special edition, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong. Special or limited edition. Really smooth. One of the viewers told me that if I don't want to snap my leads, I've got to make sure that they're not protruding too much, just enough to write. And this is a 0.5. Now, is it a B, an H, 2H, do B? I don't know, but I would have to look at the details in the packaging if it gives it to me as to what lead they put in there. It may be an HB that's in here by default, if you will. They don't tell me, or maybe they do and I just don't see it right now. But so far so good. Really like this pencil. It feels very hard and light, so could be a 2H or, something in the H as opposed to the B. There you have it. But still, very nice. So those are going to be the writing instruments for the week. I think I'm going to enjoy this. And these are what I call the forgotten ones. Let me just add the pencil. So I have 12. And you know what? These two are going to have to wait. I am not impressed. I'm going to check. This one here, I think I'm going to wash out and return because it's just not working properly. Unless you guys tell me that that's the way it functions, I think I have an issue with this pen. So it's an Amazon. So I can just put it back in its box, wash it out, put it back in its box, and return it. But please let me know. Do you have had similar problems with that nib? Am I doing something wrong? Let me know before I return it, because I do want it in my collection. I just don't want a defective one in my collection. So there you have it. Stay tuned for the next segment. Okay, so we're back for the final segment of the recap, which is YouTube reviews. I've got, first of all, in terms of other reviewers, I've got 3 reviews for you that I would recommend. Doodlebud goes over dozens of his favorite pens, and he explains why, which kind of inspired me. I might do my own video on that. I know I do the best of at the end of the year, kind of do an Academy Award presentations of various categories. But this one's a little bit different because it may not be the best pen, but it might be my favorite. And sometimes your favorite pens are not necessarily your grail pens, if you know what I mean. It's just those pens that you go to quite often, and more often than not. So I might do my favorite pens, but maybe later on in November, just to give a chance to all the pens to come in. So in any event, I recommend that, Doodlebud. It's a lot of fun. Fontaine de Plume does an excellent review of the Pilot Custom Marucci, the big one. And, you know, he's very positive, needless to say, and he really gives you the reasons why that pen is a grail pen, and it's on my list. I don't have one, and my son's going to Japan in a couple of days, and I've told him to look out for it, and if he ever sees it, I've given him a couple of stores to go to in Japan or in the cities where he's going, especially in Tokyo. So as soon as he sees that pen, he's not a fountain pen enthusiast, but I do want him to look out for it. If he sees it, he's to call me, and we'll see what kind of prices are showing in Japan, and maybe I can get it for a little less. We shall see. So that's Fontaine de Plume. Lastly, Dafio Stationery. This is one of the sites that's kind of pushed me to look into mechanical pencils, and now I've become a fanatic. And he's presenting the Graphic Gear has a 60th anniversary special edition of 3 of their models. And by the way, I've ordered it, so it's coming in. When it does come in, we'll recap it for you. So that's another one. If you're interested in mechanical pencils or want to get into them just as much as I do, they're a lot less expensive, I got to tell you, than fountain pens. So having said that, Dafio Stationery, that's my 3rd review. In terms of my own reviews, well, you can take a look at my October 26th recap. Lots of fun stuff there. And as I mentioned, I always mention these recaps can be viewed at any time. They're not time sensitive at all, other than the what's new in the market section. The rest can be consumed at any time, frankly. If you're interested in a particular notebook or some of the inks, you just have to look at them and look at the front page or the timestamps, and you're off to the races. And secondly, I did that number 8 nib video on comparing the number 8 nibs and declaring my best 10 and my winner, and indicating that to me it's a new trend. So take a look at that. Now, in terms of what's new for next week, what I can tell you, and I didn't want to show it to you because I'm going to do the unboxing and the whole thing. I got the Scribble Flow, their new model. So I think I'm going to be reviewing it next week. Stay tuned for that. Beautiful pen. And we'll take a look at that pen really, really close, and I didn't want to spoil the surprise. So although it's sitting right in front of me, we're going to show you that probably during the week. I also want to do, I mentioned that supplement on the number 8 nibs, kind of a swapping video. We'll see if I can get that done. Maybe I'll do both next week, or we'll postpone that one to the following week. We shall see. And I've got some Chinese pens coming in as well. So there you have it. That's for what's new, or what will be new next week or the weeks coming on my YouTube channel. That's it. That wraps up my recap for November the 2nd. I hope you enjoyed that. If you have not subscribed, please do. Please, thumbs up. It helps the algorithm and it helps the channel, and it's greatly appreciated. I enjoy your comments, so the more comments are received, the better it is. It feeds the channel, as they say. It feeds my inspirations, and it kind of gives me ideas from week to week in terms of producing content. So more than welcome, negative or positive. We take them all. Okay? Thank you very much for joining me once again, and enjoy your pens, enjoy your week, and be safe.